Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Remember Me Daily Readings for Lent. This is for the Saturday after the second Sunday in Lent, so we're close to another Sunday and closer to Easter. Hang in there on your if you're hanging on those Lenten devotions. Hang in there. We're almost done. But with further ado, let me read this for you guys. In this world, we have to live by faith, for all that we suffer comes from God's hand. It is either willed or permitted by God, and for our good. Some trials indeed come straight from Him. Such are the interior anguish of dereliction, of desolation, of dryness, and others of the same kind. Our Lady suffered such a trial in the loss of her son after the feast. Think of this grief by the light of the love she bore him. Think, too, of the answer given to her at the moment of her ecstasy at meeting him again. Of another trial of hers was when at the marriage in Cana he seemed to repel her suggestion. He being Jesus. Did did either shake her faith or cause her to protest? Consider her gentleness, whom his reproof rendered still meeker, and compare it with the impulse of our souls when God sends us trials. Where is our faith? We fail to find a recollectedness in prayer, and we leave it off. We lose our old fervor in the reception of the sacraments, and we neglect them. In our spiritual desolation, we turn to creatures for comfort, and when God withdraws himself from us to prove our affection or to draw us to him, we perhaps forsake him. O hard and foolish hearts, ask rather for crosses and trials and labor. They lead, as they well may, to a closer likeness to Mary's holy heart, to a closer union with that of her divine Son. And to end this reading, Jesus, sick of heart, his friends asleep, his enemies vigilant, places himself entirely in his Father's hands. So, excuse me. Um, the notes for today that I took and would want to talk to you guys today is in this world we have to live by faith. And what is faith? Well, in this aspect, it's the assent of the intellect and is based upon the authority of God. So we have to just put our you know we have to leave it to God and trust in Him. Um, for all we suffer is either willed or permitted by God. Some trials indeed come straight from God, such are the interior anguish of dereliction, desolation, and dryness. And that's what we have to understand. I think yesterday I was talking about things that's difficult with being a Catholic. What's funny, before I continue, what's funny is that I open up to you guys and tell you guys things, and then the next reading, maybe a day or so, it's like what we talked about. So forgive me if I repeat, but it's good to repeat because it's kind of good to drill these ideas in different ways. But God allows these things to happen, um, right? Either He wills it directly or He permits it to happen, and this is entirely for the good of our growth. For we do need these trials to be strong. Without trials, we cannot be strong Catholics, and God understands that. That's why, at the very least, He permits these things to happen. I think for the most part, these things He permits it to happen. I think very few. This is my personal opinion, obviously, but I think very few things, very few trials are actually dictated by God. Actually dictated by God. Um, I think very few of them are. Most of them are just things that He permits, and we can tell because they're imperfect um, things. I think the more complicated the problem is, and there's only a handful. I'm not gonna name them, but there's like a handful of things that I think could be willed by our Lord. But for the most part, again, these are things that are permitted by God. And yeah, so when it comes to dereliction, desolation, and dryness, things that happen in our spiritual life, on these matters, the most appropriate thing to do is to accept the tribulation. We're going to go through these things. We're going to go through, especially dryness. We're going to go through these things, and the best thing that we can do is not to withdraw ourselves from God, but to seek Him closer. And maybe the dryness, um, I want to just cover that because I don't think I've really talked about it too much. I think in a past episode I did, but I wanted to touch on that a little more, especially on dryness. We must use dryness as an opportunity to grow spiritually, and not just like to spiritually go up against it and to resist it spiritually as much as possible, but also find different ways to love God. I think one way that like the good thing is in this day and age for us Catholics is that we do have tools, right, to make it way better than what people did maybe like I'll say like maybe 100 years ago, right? We have books and different ways where we can learn things and we can grow spiritually. Different books, different, especially with the rosary, different books with different meditations and different things. And all this is to our benefit, and we should take advantage of it. Somewhat like if maybe I wouldn't say stop praying the rosary, but like, hey, if you need to add going to benediction, if you need to add a different kind, maybe add the chaplet of Our Lady of Sorrows. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think, yeah, maybe if you have a different prayer schedule, if you're experiencing dryness, try to find different ways to do the same thing. So, yeah, like there are plenty of books on rosary meditations that you can read and you can use while you're praying to kind of like, if you have dryness doing the same meditations, look at different meditations. But continuing on, um, going back on these, we must accept these tribulations. We have to accept these challenges that God permits or God sends us because many egregious sins have been committed because people run from the cross or run from these tribulations. I think sometimes, we don't want to accept the challenges or tribulations that God gives us, and that leads us to do things that are very egregious to Him. Um, you know, um, Whatever that may be. I don't think this video is appropriate for giving examples of it, but it's certainly rebelling against the will, at least the will of God, is bad, and it leads you to do bad things. So, as much as it goes against the human nature to kind of accept things as they are, since we're Catholic, we are called to do that. We are called to accept things. And sometimes, I wouldn't even say sometimes, most of the times, there are things that we don't want to accept. But I think that the easiest thing to do is to accept it and yeah, accept it humbly or risk sinning greatly. And I would also say when it comes to tribulations, when it comes to sufferings, dryness, whatever they may be, I think it is indeed an act of love when Christ allows us to join in His sufferings, right? We all want to be friends of Christ, and being friends of Christ, it actually means something. It's not it's not something stupid like when you see people wear that stupid shirt. Jesus is my homeboy. No, to be a true friend of Christ is to join with Him in His suffering. And keep in mind, right? Obviously, this is against human nature, like the human nature of how we're supposed to operate, but we are supposed to accept God's sufferings. This is the part where, going back to the reading, where it says, "O hard and foolish hearts, ask rather for crosses, trials, and labor." Right? That, humans hate that. Man hates that. Right? Man hates that. Man hates trials. Man hates the cross. Right? Even us, even Catholics, we, as much as we try to, as much as we try to pray and try to unite ourselves with Christ, we too hate the cross. We too complain, whatever crosses. Some of us have certain crosses, and I do admit that some people have it heavier than others. But we Catholics, whatever it may be, we also try to avoid the cross, and that's bad because it goes back to what I said. Many egregious sins have come out of people trying to run away from their spiritual responsibilities. Um, yeah, so we must we must accept them, the tribulations, first as reparations and second as an opportunity to be with the suffering Christ. This reminds me of Saint Dismas. Saint Dismas was the good thief. He was crucified too next to Christ, and he asked for Christ to remember him, Saint Dismas, when Christ enters into his kingdom. And, in the spirit of Lent and in the spirit of the subject that we're going over, the notes today for this episode, we have to be like Saint Dismas too. And we have to be like Saint Dismas, not just in asking God to remember us when he enters into his kingdom or to remember us, right, in our death, but we also have to be at the right side of our Lord crucified. All Catholics, right? This is I guess the ultimate in the Catholic pill, right? That's what I'm calling it. That's what I'm dubbing it, the Catholic pill. Um, for a Catholic, the Catholic pill is that we are on our way to Calvary. The good Catholic will find himself on the way to Calvary, right? If you follow the Catholic faith properly, right, you will not enter into riches. You will not enter into a life of luxury and comfort. What you will find yourself in when you allow yourself to start uniting yourself with Christ, when you are on your way to the unitive way, right? The last of the triple way. We talked about that in our earlier episode. But when you get to that point, to the unitive way, what happens is that the only thing that awaits for you is suffering, is is mockery, but more so than ever, it's suffering. That's what's awaiting for you. Again, it's not a life it's not a life of luxury, it's not a life of relaxation, it's not a life of easy money. It's basically like you too are picking up your cross. Christ asked us to pick up the cross and to take your cross and follow him. Where are you following him to Calvary, right? Whatever that Calvary may be, people have a bigger Calvary than others. In this case, it's subjective. It varies from whoever's carrying it. My cross might be heavier than somebody else's cross. Your cross might be heavier than mine. Uh, the way to Calvary might be shorter than mine. It might be longer, but that's where we're going ultimately, and that's the Catholic pill. We will eventually be in Calvary and we will be crucified, right? Whatever it may be, we will have to suffer for our faith one way or another. We will suffer, we will be mocked, um, we will be mocked, but generally suffering, right? This world was not made for us, right? When you're Catholic, you understand this world was not made for us. And of course, it doesn't mean that we should give up because we should never give up. We should never give up trying to spread the good news of our Lord. But the expectation of a relaxing, luxurious life, That should have been thrown out the window at confirmation, which maybe I'll talk about it in another video, but it is something that they gotta let you know in confirmation. Sorry, they gotta let you know in confirmation that there's no there's no luxurious life for you. There's no relaxation for you. There's no worldly recognition for you. There's not any of that. What there is a cross. You will take it. You will take it all away. You will carry it your whole life, and you will ultimately find your Calvary, whatever that may be, right? It's going to be there, and there's nothing that you can do to stop it other than leave the faith. The only way you can make this suffering, this worldly suffering, stop, whatever it may be, the only way you can do it is if you let go of the cross. If you drop the cross and you get off the royal road, that's basically the only way. The only way to get off this road is to betray and abandon Christ, right? Betray him and abandon him full, not abandon him in the sense of committing mortal sin. That's just the errors. Those are just errors, right? But abandoning him, basically telling him, I don't want anything to do with you, and you leave. The scariest thing for people, and there's usually in Catholic memes, there's a meme like the scariest thing that you can hear is depart from me, right? For I know you not. What Christ will say to you if you don't follow him, but right, the most the most I'm assuming, right, with reading about the apparitions of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, but I'm assuming the most hurtful thing that you can do to Christ is to tell him, yeah, we don't need you. I don't want to be here. Like I don't need to follow you. Like I don't need to follow. This is this is not for me, and you just leave them alone to carry the cross, right? And for those people who do that willingly, who not mistakenly, but people who just like really, that's an evil person, someone who knows what they're doing is wrong and they just do it anyway. Because I'm just gonna go on a little diatribe, but I mean there are a lot of people who most most atheists leave the church just a misunderstanding for the most part. A misunderstanding. These are people who are hurt for the most part. They're hurt. Something happened in their lives and they can't explain it and they feel abandoned by God. They get overtaken by despair, which is why having despair is a mortal sin. They get overtaken by despair and they leave. They're sad people. And I'm being as charitable as possible to most atheists. If you're an atheist, it's probably the case with you. Probably the case with you that you got hurt. In your confusion, you abandoned God and you're still hurt. Those wounds, emotional wounds, whatever they may be, even physical wounds, they might be that they might be that deep that you just can't get over yourself. Like not even you can't get you still have the anger burning inside of you, right? And that's usually what most atheists this is what most atheists fall under. But there's a subcategory of people of atheists who are truly evil. People who like I don't care. People who tell basically I don't care. I know and they really do inside themselves. They say I know this is true. I know this is correct. I know this is the right way, but I don't care, right? And we can't leave the cross. We can't abandon our crosses, and it hurts Christ to hear that. So remember, people, that as difficult as it may be, right? Christ went through that way before us to show us that it is possible for people to do it. All you have to do is run to Him, and if you can't run to Him, even cry out to Our Lady for help. She's also here to help. Our Lady is your biggest supporter. If you feel like nobody supports you, understand, understand that Our Lady supports you. Our Lady supports you. She wants the best for you spiritually, and she's there to help. If you ask for help, she will help you. But you got to be open. You got to have your heart open. You got to be honest, and you got to live for Christ. So, um, yeah. that's what I wanted to talk about today. Um, if you guys are, I hope you guys' Lent is going well. As I said when we started this video, hang in there. We're there. We're almost halfway there. And pray for me as I'll pray for you. And until the next episode, take care and God bless.